rocking with Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 42 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Katie, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Grace.
Hi guys.
And EJ.
Hey everyone.
And today will be kind of our finale of the Begins episodes. Today we'll be talking about the last two, which are Hen and Chimney Begins, which were both episodes from season 2, which were episodes 9 and 12 of obviously 9-1. And yeah, and then at the end we'll finally be ranking, on which we mentioned like several literally legit months ago at this point.
Yeah.
It feels like forever we've been like doing Begins, but yeah, let's get to it because there's a lot with 2 episodes.
Right.
So like once again, I felt like so contemplated when I watched these because I was like, okay, these were better than I remembered before I watched them. Like, I don't know, it was just like different. But starting off with Hen Begins, I really did like watching Hen Begins, and same with Chim Begins. Like, I like rewatching them and like, I don't know, different perspective. But like, Hen starts out with a voiceover, and I really liked that because in the voiceover she basically just says like, first responders are born twice. The first time is when they come into the world. The second is the day they make the choice to spend their lives running towards the danger, to risk everything to make sure that you get home safe to the people you love. My name is Henrietta Wilson, and this is my story, and I don't know, I just love that. Like,
oh yeah, that's awesome.
I do love that. It's like, it's very empowering.
And it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, our nature is to run away from the danger. So first responders literally are like a different breed because they run to the danger.
Precisely.
So it's so true.
Yeah, they're like real life superheroes. Like, that's...
Except the nice thing about them, bringing in real life superheroes, they don't have any particular power. They have some equipment, but it's not any high tech or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're just going in and hoping for the best. That's sort of what's happening.
Literally.
MacGyvering things.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah, and like the clips or like montages they chose to put over like with the voiceover were like from the earthquake, and I was like, oh my god, like that feels like so long ago, but also because I haven't rewatched this, and like it just like paints like a good image of her going into the episode and stuff of like, okay, who's Hen?
That's also like it's also very close to when these episodes were, because, you know, to us that seems like a long time ago, especially having covered it in our podcast so long ago. But technically Earthquake was only like a few episodes before this.
Right, yeah. Like real time, these weren't aired that far apart.
Yeah, I think the Earthquake was like episode 2 and 3, and Hen Begins was 9.
Yeah,
so it was like both in 2A.
Yeah, they're both. Yeah, like this one was in the first half season, which I have thoughts now watching them of how they aired them, but we'll get to that. But basically, the next scene is basically Hen at dinner with some guys. She's a pharmaceutical rep, so like this is like a work like dinner.
I gotta say, that's the last thing you could ever see her as.
Yes.
I know!
Like,
it's so weird to think that she was a pharmaceutical rep. Like, I kind of understand, like, the journey, and I think Hen, like, everyone, I feel like, has a good journey, like, in their Begins episode, like, but I don't know, Hen, there's just something about her, the journey she went on, that I just love. Like, I don't know what it is. I can't really explain it, but it's just, like, I don't know, like, I feel this, like, Hen, and there's, like, a lot of things in, like, this episode where I was like, okay, I see that, I get that, I relate.
Yeah.
But, like, basically, they were, like, trying to, like, supposed to push some, like, drug or whatever, and, like, Hen basically just says, like, oh, like, yeah, if your patients, like, can't afford, like, the like actual name brand, like, yeah, I'm not gonna say like they should just go for like the non-name brand one. Like, she's not gonna push like money for medications if it's not really needed, and this is why she does not last, which is why, and also that's why we don't see her as this, because like we know like Hen's not that. person
Yeah.
and stuff. And she's just like, I don't know, she like basically after like the people like leave or whatever, they finish the dinner or whatever, the guy that was with her, which I assume was like a boss or something, or like a slightly higher up, he was not happy with her. And basically he asked her if she liked her job, and she was like, no, I don't like this job. She's just like, and he's just like, wow, I've never seen anybody like basically destroy her life or something along the lines of that. And she quits, and I'm like, yes, hon, yes.
Go Hen.
Yeah.
Like, good girl.
Yes.
People don't get, don't have to be stuck in these jobs. And if you're miserable, it isn't worth, like pharmaceutical reps, I imagine they get paid fairly nice, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I know like people are like, oh, you could do this and you make so much money, but like, is that really like what matters in life? Is that you make a lot of money? Like, you can literally be like the richest person, but also be hella miserable. Like, money does not.
Remember the guy who won the lottery in here? I
Oh,
forget what
yeah.
episode it was and stuff like that. He won the lottery, and literally everything in his life had fallen apart.
Yeah, that was season 2, because that was when Bobby was like suspended or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was episode 17.
Yeah, like people winning the lottery. That was such, people like winning the lottery and like being miserable. Yeah, that's like so. It's because like you don't know what to do with the money, and then like, it's just not. It's
Literally,
not a good
careful
time.
what you wish for.
I know, like I think about this a lot. Like I would love to win the lottery, like but I like have use for the money.
Literally, of course you want to be successful and you want to have enough money to live on. You, and financial stress is terrible. Okay? Because so much in the world relies on having money. However, it is very true. Old saying, you cannot buy happiness.
Yeah.
And so you should have to pick one.
Yeah.
There are plenty of options, depending on an individual's personality and skill set, where you can be happy and make money.
Yeah.
TED Talk over. Let's go.
Yeah. I love that then the next scene leads into Hen going to see a life coach, and she's like taking one of those quizzes and stuff, and like the life coach kind of tells Hen that she doesn't even tell her. She first rips up the paper and she tells Hen that she isn't being honest, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I gotta be honest though, I've taken quizzes like that before, and even though you're doing it literally to assess yourself, you're still looking to put in the right answer.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been fully honest on those quizzes before because I always feel like there's something I have to put down.
Yeah.
Either to get the result I want or to disguise something in myself.
Yeah.
It's really...
Yeah. The first time I think I ever took one of those quizzes was like when I was in like a class in like, I think it was 8th grade, where we had to like do that to figure out what career we would be in, to like basically do a project on it. And I remember like just wanting a certain answer or not wanting something, so like altering, where I've taken like certain like things like that now, and like I haven't done that, but like it definitely is like a lot of pressure because there's like, well, I don't want to get this, so you're just trying not to.
Oh my god.
I remember being younger and facing so much opposition on my wanting to become a firefighter that whenever I had to take one of those, whether it was in therapy or just on my own or something, I would rig the answers because I didn't want one more thing telling me that my dream wasn't something I should be chasing. And at this time, I'm like, screw any quiz. It can't tell me what I want to do with my life.
Right.
Yeah.
But back then, little me found it so important because it was like, I can't have one more thing telling me that, I can't do this.
Yeah. I took one of those tests once, and I think it told me I was supposed to be a teacher. I just laughed.
Same.
I'm like, nope.
Well,
not for me.
I couldn't.
Yeah, like originally that was what I wanted to like go into, but then I kind of realized that I don't think I really have like a set dream and stuff. Like I think there are things I'd like to do, but I'd never been the one person where one day I woke up, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do the rest of my life.
Oh, I think I remember what my top result has been before. It has been in education and there were like a couple other choices, and all of them I just looked at and I went, nope.
Well, and I have nothing. I have friends who are teachers. I like love the education system. But just for me, my personality does not bode well for like patience and like teaching. I can teach and I can help people, but not in the way of a teacher. Because teachers put up with a lot of stuff that I would never put up.
Mine would be having to deal with like disrespectful kids and stuff, and like I get part of that. The kids just don't feel heard, or they're going through a hard time and stuff like that. So I'm not going to blame the kids fully, but there are definitely kids that are going to be hard to deal with. And also, I would have a hard time trying to abide by what we're supposed to teach rather than what's like the reality. So like for example, teaching a very whitewashed history and that kind of thing like that. Like I'd have trouble doing that, even though that's the curriculum.
Right, yeah, like
I basically I couldn't abide by the rules. So
right.
They don't want me teaching anybody.
Mood. Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, so she rips up the paper and then like I don't know, they're like basically long story short, then her life coach collapses and Hen literally jumps right in to save her and calls 911. And like this is like where you're like, okay, she found her calling.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where like it's very weird to see Hen in that situation and not knowing what to do, because she really didn't know what to do. Like the 911 operator had to walk her through giving the person CPR.
And when we've been through 2 seasons of watching her just kick ass, it's just like
it's really hard to see when she's so clueless.
Yeah, I mean she did like jump. She jumped right into it. She just didn't know what to do, like physically, which is understandable.
Right.
You can be trained in that, but when you're in the situation, you just kind of have to be like, I do know what to do. I've just never had to do it on a real person before, and like I am trained in CPR. Like that's the course I've been taking this semester, and like I know how it goes, 30 to 2. Like I know how to do that. I know how to use an AED. But when it comes down to that, I'm just really hoping one day I don't freeze up just because I'll go, somebody's died. What the hell did I learn?
Right, yeah.
Because in those moments, you always question even what you learned. Like, do I really know what I'm doing?
Or is it 32 to 3? Or is it like,
But then Hen goes home to Eva and tells her about the life coach, which I was very dreading this moment just because, like, Eva, no, thanks. But it was like one scene and it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
It's so weird, too, because the gal who plays Eva was kind of an interesting woman on a show I used to watch called The Unit, and every time I see her, I see Tiffy, which is the character she played in that show.
That's like me with like a lot of characters. Like I can't think of any right now, but I'm just like, what are you doing in my show?
Right.
Like honestly, yeah. And then so basically like at first like obviously Hen's excited about it and she sees this as a sign to become a paramedic, and Eva's kind of being like dismissive about it because she's like, yeah, well, it's not like a sign from God or anything, like just because.
And me just going, says who?
Yeah, literally. Right. And she's like, and Hen says like, no, I think the sign, like she says, no, I think the sign came from God. When I was 16, I got shot and I lived, and this is him sending me a reminder. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
I always forget about that until I remember that she did the interview in Dosed, and that's where she explained what happened.
Yeah.
But Dose actually was after this episode, wasn't it?
No, Dosed was number 6.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, I'm getting it mixed up.
I haven't watched it in so long for obvious reasons, but now I kind of want to just for like some little facts.
I would skip to that interview and then I'd skip past everything else.
Mood, yes.
That's
That's
me.
a point.
I will
saw.
not say why, but we all agree there's a reason we won't watch that episode.
I did. Okay. The only thing I'm gonna say about that is that recently I saw like a clip of that episode, and it was like Eddie basically telling Taylor to get back, and I was like, "Yes, boy, yes."
Yeah.
Love that man. And then like Eva still being dismissive, but I really like this scene. I think it's kind of funny, like in a weird way. But Eva's just like, is that what you really want to be, the black lesbian in the firehouse? And Hen's like, you act like I'm gonna march in there with a rainbow flag. No one knows I'm a lesbian. And then Eva's just like, it's just firehouses, boys clubs, Hen, and white boys clubs. And Hen's like, well, then I'll just have to Rosa Parks the hell out of it. Now won't I? I love this
I
moment.
love that. I love Hen. I love her.
I love
Max.
That whole like snippet is probably my favorite, just like kind of like comeback, but it's not like full comeback, but it's just so good. Okay.
No, it's fantastic.
It is very good. Very good.
And I love, we've only seen what Hen and Aoife's relationship was like afterwards. And so, like, getting to step it in and being like, well, no matter what happened, Hen was always still Hen. Even though she may not have found her niche yet, but, like, personality-wise, yep, she was always Hen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And she's like, I know it won't be easy, but I at least have to try. And that's the whole thing. Like, it might not be like the easiest thing, but like if you don't try, you'll never know.
Right.
Yeah. And then we see kind of like how he did in like other, well, actually no, I think Chim was the only episode we saw like the training aspect and stuff, but like badass, like, yes. And I love how like, so like when she was a pharmaceutical rep, she wore a wig and stuff, and I love how
seeing
like
her with hair was so weird.
It was because I'm so used to seeing her with no hair.
Even when I see Aisha and she has hair, it's like, excuse you?
Right.
Yeah, it's so weird. And like, so like, there's a scene like after kind of within the academy scene where she burns the wig, and I was like, I love that scene. I just do and stuff. And yeah, like just seeing her like go through the academy is just like, oh yes, women, yeah. And then of course Hen gets into the 118. I find it interesting that like Hen, Chimney, Buck all started at the 118, not like other shows I've watched where you see like people like come from different firehouses and then like the show starts and they're all at one place. It's just interesting.
Yeah, only Bobby didn't start there.
Yeah, and well, I was gonna say Eddie, but like technically he does too, because like that was
his rookie year was at 118, and
that was his first. He just came in knowing so much, and so it's always hard to remember he was a rookie.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, because like Buck didn't call him rookie. They didn't call him probie.
I think that's because he was like in the military, so like he had experience. It's not like he was like Robbie, who's like a straight up probie.
Right, he is totally green.
And like he was also older than Buck, and so, like more on par age-wise and maturity-wise. So I think it just kind of would have been weird for anyone to call him.
Yeah, and I think I get what you're saying, Katie, because it's oftentimes when you are a probationary firefighter, oftentimes there's certain firehouses that they have the probies go to, and then when they're done, they transfer to another firehouse. It's not often that they stay at the firehouse they were the probationary firefighter at.
Like just a lot of shows, it's like, oh yeah, this person moved here, this person was originally here, so it's just interesting to see like they were all pretty much start at the same place, but also because they were like in this area, but even then. But yeah, so Hen meets Captain Gerard, and
I hate him.
I was gonna say spoiler alert, I hate him. I hate this man.
He's as bad as the dude that was with Mateo in the end of season 2.
Yes,
100%.
With that captain, he got what he was coming to him. Sorry.
Yeah, literally. But like, Hen meets him, and he asks her if Henrietta is her real name, and I'm just thinking, like, what do you think her real name is? And like, he says, like, what did you do to deserve it? Do your parents deserve a name like that? And he's like, hey, he's just so sexist and obviously racist too, and stuff, but he says she's prettier than most, and I'm
that creeps me.
No, that's like really.
awkward and very unprofessional and just ugh.
I hate, yeah, it's just like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And then, like, he points out, he's like, oh, the women's locker room's over there. It's literally just, like, a room, which I feel like, it's just like, and then the sign isn't even, like, a real sign, it's a piece of paper. And I'm, like, pretty sure that room's, like, see-through. I'm like, okay.
And here's the thing, she's not the only woman there.
Right.
And she may have been at the time, but we see other women, like, in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm having trouble believe she was the first woman to come there, seeing as women have been entering the LAFD for a fair amount of time before that.
Yeah, and like...
So I find it hard to believe she's the only one.
Yeah. And what I didn't like of how, like, he actually introduced her to the rest of the team was saying that she's their new diversity hire. Like, basically saying, oh, we're forced to take her because we have to...
It's like checking a box or something like
that.
Yeah,
like, I'm like, can you just shut up? And, like, the only person that, like, I feel like right off the bat that obviously, like, is, like, not taking his shit is, like, Chimney. Of course. Yeah. And he's just like, you know, Cap, there's another way to say that. And he's like, yeah, we're screwed. And I'm like, shut up.
Mm-hmm. Like, you made it. I don't think you made it worse, but you didn't make it any better.
Right. Yeah. But I'm glad Chim was there, and he really welcomed her in, like, with open arms.
Yeah,
exactly. Just why there's... I was like, that's why I like that we're doing these episodes together, because like, Chim and Hen are, like, best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems fitting that we're doing their Begins episodes together.
Exactly. Yeah. All I have to say for Hen is at least they let her go on a call, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
poor
true.
Chim, which we'll get to, but poor Chim. And the captain is, like, going off about how much it costs for a woman to go through the academy, and how 3 out of 8 women made it through the academy. He got stuck with one of the 3, and saying how, what did he do to the service? And I'm just
at this point, I'm just like,
shut
anyone got a frying pan? Okay.
Same.
Anyhow,
like I said, Chim is the only one that's, like, nice to her. All the other guys are kind of, like, they're not, like, blatantly rude to her, but they don't really make an effort to even, like, just be like, hey, welcome.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, too, it's, you know, I know they've showed this on other series where, like, when they do get the one woman, it's kind of awkward because there's so much of the whole, you don't want to act like you're sexually harassing them. You have to be careful about what you talk about. So a lot of guys just don't know how to act around women when they've been in such a male-dominated job for so long.
Here's the thing. We see a couple of the guys become more decent. Like, Tommy, for example. Like, he became slightly more decent, even though we only really saw him, I think, in Chimney Begins and Bobby Begins, but in Bobby Begins we see him become more decent. But the thing is, was somebody laughing?
I was, because I was on the same page for a second. I was like, Tommy Vega? Oh, never mind.
Oh, wrong series.
No.
I was like, why are we talking about Tommy? Okay, no. Moving on.
Now I don't even remember what I was saying.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Okay, no, Tommy, dude, white dude, you're all good. I feel like him and a few of the others, they're just following the leader.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it is the bros club in a way, and you're sticking by your bros, and so even if you don't, agree with something, you're not going to stand up against the bros, because you also don't want to be the one ousted.
Mm-hmm.
And genuinely, some of them were assholes. But
yeah,
it's still, it's still like high school, seriously. So
didn't we have a Lone Star mention of Firehouse is like high school?
I think we did.
What was it?
207.
7.
I'm like the Lone Star Encyclopedia Grace is like that one encyclopedia. That's a fact.
It's a fact.
Well, you guys are. No, I was actually gonna say. Well, I was talking kind of about, because Tim kind of in the beginning of season 2 was kind of acting like that, like talking about that a little bit to Nancy, and then but then yes, it was brought up again in 7 when TK became a paramedic.
When he and Nancy were having issues.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Don't you just love how we can talk 911 and somehow we always end up on talking about Lone Star stuff?
Especially with so much Lone Star content coming out.
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
And by so much, I mean we're finally getting some.
We're finally getting something where there was a time where we were like, I wonder when it's gonna come. And it's always funny because when we record, which like it's not like we're not on like some certain schedule like every week, obviously. But every time we record, like the last time we recorded, literally 2 days later, we found out the air date, which we already kind of knew. And then we got like a promo, and I was like, what the heck? Why does this always happen?
Right. And then we're like blowing up our text messages like, oh my god, did you see it?
Guys! Yeah.
Yeah. Literally. But yeah.
Next up, back to this.
Back to Hen.
Back to Hen. So yeah, the first like legitimate call was a mudslide basically, because the mountain comes down into a house where a mother and daughter were, and like this is crazy because like I don't know, like it's just crazy to see like the mountain comes down on the house. Like I don't know, I just can't like fathom that and stuff. And like the mom has trouble breathing because the mud obviously like came down on her, and Hen wants to get water to like basically like I forget like what she was trying to do, but Hen basically makes a comment like, haven't you people built sandcastles? And it's like, yeah, like, apparently not. And she was like, yeah, this is what happens when a tide comes down on someone. Or, no, I'm like thinking, okay, I guess this is what happens when, you know. Because she's like stuck in the mud, so I guess like the water would like make her like unstuck, I think is the thing. Because it was like clogging it. I don't know. And then, so like, Hen tries to go find like a hose line, and this is where she meets Athena, and I'm like, yes!
That's right.
Women!
I love their power friendship, like.
Yes, literally. And like, Athena asks where the fire is, and Hen is like, there's no fire. And she's just like, if it doesn't work, they're gonna light me on fire.
True.
Like, mood.
Unfortunately.
And like, this doesn't actually like end up like turning out the way like Hen would want it, because the captain basically is like completely against it the whole time. And then he's like, she's gonna be a DOA when she gets to the hospital, and her daughter is just gonna have to see her like that, and basically blames her for it. But like, my thought is, wouldn't you want to get her out, even if there's like just a slim chance?
I would rather die in the hospital than I'd rather die in the mud. I'm just gonna say.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and looking in from the daughter's perspective, I would rather my mom be taken out of that situation and me being able to like have actual closure than like whatever could have happened.
Right.
And yeah, so Athena witnesses this and kind of gives Hen her number, saying that she knows a good bar on the west side, and Hen mentions something along the lines of like jumping out a bridge or something. Athena just says like, I'll tell you it gets better, but you know I'm lying, so call me.
Yeah, I love that Athena was, like supportive. Was she a sergeant at the time? I can't remember.
I don't know. Like, it almost seems like she wasn't, but also I don't know if she was sergeant. Like, I couldn't really get the vibe.
Yeah. But no, it's cool. Like, cause she gets it. Like, she gets as being a police officer in a very male dominated, career too. So I love how their friendship kind of formed then, and it kind of grew. And now we have those like really awesome relationship now. You don't want to mess with either one of them.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
Power duo right there.
Literally. There's like so many duos, because there's like Hen and Athena, Chimney and Hen, Buck and Eddie.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Literally so many duos. But yeah, speaking of Hen and Chimney, they do like talk like after this. Hen kind of mentions that it's not the first time men treat her like this in a job, but it's just the first time it was in a job she actually cares about. And I was just like, oh, And Chimney's just like trying to sympathize, which like he can understand, but like not in that sense. Because he's like, yeah, I understand. And Hen's like, no, you don't. And he's like, oh, you think they're inviting the Asian guy to their houses for barbecues and out for beers? And Hen's like, it's a big difference between being invisible and being a threat to their way of life. And yes, you're a minority too, but you're still a man. You benefit from the system that keeps a woman like me down. And he's like, you always make friends this easily.
Yeah, it was like this awkward conversation. I mean, she was right in some ways, but yeah, it was kind of awkward. But he's like still being her friend, which is awesome.
Yeah. I almost feel like Chimney Begins should have been aired before this one because in some senses it doesn't make sense. Like I understand why they aired it later was because it had to do with like him being stabbed and they showed that in the episode. But like seeing like because like Hen wasn't there when Chim was there.
Yeah.
So like it didn't really some parts like didn't make sense
right.
and stuff. So I feel like I don't know. Like I know it makes sense why they did it, but I also think they could have aired them.
Right.
It just I don't know.
Well, and given that Hen Begins was totally covered by like past stuff, they could have easily aired this one like right after Chimney Begins or something.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So
I guess it built suspense for Chimney Begins.
But... Yeah, but I do get what you're saying. You know, having Chimney there during Hen Begins, and then the next episode or like episodes later when we have Chim Begins, there's no Hen, which is weird because he was already there for her, but
yeah, it's just a little weird is all.
Yeah.
And like after Chim makes a comment about her making friends so easily, Hen kind of glares at him, and then the captain kind of tells him to stop talking. And Hen he says something like something about like home ec like and stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, dude, we do not like you.
Right.
And then like Chim kind of advised Hen to not take this all on herself and stuff. And of course we get the captain talking with Hen, like, and I'm just like, yep. And like at first you think he's like, well, I don't really think he's complimenting her, but like you think he's trying to at least be a bigger person and not be such an asshole. But no.
Too much to ask.
Yeah, it's too much to ask, literally. Like, all the things she is doing, like, I don't know. It's too good to be true, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's not true. Like, him, like, basically, like... Because this is when, like, she, like, came in early to all this stuff, and he's like, oh, I bet you, like, checked up on the woman. And, like, she finds out she didn't make it and stuff. And, like, he was like... And this is when he puts his foot up on the truck and says, oh... you missed a spot or something along the lines of that. And I'm like, oh my god. And like he basically threatens her, saying if she goes against his orders again, she won't be cleaning out Grace traps, she'll be cleaning out her locker. And I'm just like
so many words for him. Yeah, I did not like him.
Nothing complimentary.
Nope.
No, literally, like he was not even like an ounce good.
Yeah.
No, he was just a complete asshole.
Yeah. And he, like, the bell's ringing. He's like, no, you're sending this one out. I'm not ready for you to be out there. And I'm just like, okay. And then this is, like, probably my favorite scene of the whole episode. It's, like, Hen meets with Athena, but she doesn't know, like, two people Athena knows were gonna be there. She meets, Casey, a gay firefighter from the 115.
Okay, where has he been?
I forgot he existed before reading
so
the
did
book.
I forgot.
Okay, listen, I legit love this guy. We've seen him in just this episode, but like, can we bring him back?
Oh my god, yeah.
Can we invent this story that they still do this? Because the whole thing is, and then
wait, I have an idea.
So do I. I think I know what it's gonna be.
And Josh.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
It's not what I was thinking, but okay.
What were you thinking?
We need to get Josh a boyfriend, don't we?
Oh,
yeah.
He would be perfect for Josh.
That's it. That's
he better not be like married or something, because I feel like no.
Polyamory.
I don't know. Let's just get Josh a boyfriend. That's like the major test. Anyways, and then Hannah also meets Beth Ann, who works out of Rampart. She's fellow cop as well. Is along with And the three of them get together once a month to swap war stories. And I'm like, can you please tell me this is still a thing? This is a
Oh, I
thing
hope so.
they still do. Because I would love that.
Yes, we need it.
Oh, it's so good. And like,
Yeah.
they gave Han solid advice. And I was like, I love this. Like
Yeah.
this scene makes the episode like, oh, but yes.
So, my idea, because I don't want to forget, I just want to get it down,
Yeah.
was that get Casey to somehow work with the 118 or end up at the 118 and also be confused about Buck thinking he's flirting with him. Like TK. And then Buck finally saying, does somebody think I'm gay? Or something
And like
that.
everyone's hand goes up.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just like, huh?
And Eddie is kind of like,
and then he's just like, yeah,
and then Casey could be like, wait, what? I thought you and Eddie were together.
I want that to happen. Like, I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Like, I almost want to be like,
we know it won't.
Right,
but we
right.
want it.
Oh yeah, fan fiction.
Never say never.
Fan fiction.
Yeah,
Precisely.
like
I refuse to write that though. I have too much going on in it.
Yeah, I know, me too.
I wrote something similar in that, like when kind of like I wrote like the idea of like somebody like an outsider basically being like thinking Buck and Eddie are a couple. But the outsider was like Carlos and like TK, except for I think I had Carlos say it because it made more sense. Oh, so good. But anyways, we always find a way to bring Buddy into this.
Hen begins, and we're talking Buddy. Okay.
What else is new?
What else is new? Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
But anyways, Hen goes into work the next day honking the horn, and this is like another one of my favorites because
I love this. It's a power move.
It's such a good scene. It's like so powerful, and like so the captain is just like, "What the hell is this?" And Hen's just like, "I have something to say to all of you. I see you. I see you all the second I walked in that door, all of you staring at me. I see you when you're hazing me, not like all the other rookies, whether we're here in the house or we're out on a call. I'm watching you. I'm looking. I see you. When you look at me, what do you see? A woman? A black woman? A lesbian? Good, because I'm all of those things, and I don't expect you to love me. I don't even ask you to like me. All I ask is that you look at me the way I see you as a proud member of this department. One of the rare few that chooses to spend their lives in service of those who are hurt and those who need to be saved. And one other thing, if any of you have a problem with me being here, I suggest you ask for a transfer because I'm not going anywhere. Mood, yes.
Go Hen.
Woo! I love her.
Yes.
Love that.
Respect.
Yes, queen. Like, seriously, I can't. Like, that's just like, oh, so good. And like,
moment of silence
for Hen being a total badass. Yes.
Okay, that's enough.
And then like the captain kind of or somebody like clops.
I think it was the captain.
Yeah, it was. I just like I was like, did that happen? Because I like it doesn't seem like it would. This is why I doubt these things. Because even though I watched it, I'm like, did this happen?
Yeah.
And
I mean, I didn't even watch it. I haven't watched it in a while, but I do have a vague memory. It was him who did the slow clap.
Yes. So he slow claps, and then they all get called to a car accident. And this is like I remember it being like kind of near like a wooded area with like a creek or something. With water basically. And Hen thinks there's a second car, but the captain kind of orders Hen to like not go looking because like he doesn't think there's a second car there. But of course, does she listen? No.
Okay, here's the thing.
As she should.
You need to check. You don't leave those things up to chance.
Right.
And also, there's no harm caused by going to look.
Yeah.
You check the scene. You find how many people are involved and what the situation is. Literally everything he was going against is against even the basic laws of first aid and CPR. Okay? Like, he's a fire captain, and it goes against the most basic rules.
Yeah, literally.
My brain just blown away by that. But here, you didn't want to know that, but there's that.
Yeah, and like the reason why she thought that is because I believe there was like paint or something that hit because it was like a limo, I believe, or something like that. But they find basically in the water, they find a man and a boy who drown. I think they found the man outside the water, but they found like a boy in the water, and they basically save him. And actually, like Ken and Chim go down there. They're the only
Yeah.
ones go down there.
Yeah.
And like Ken like starts crying because of all this. Like not like a lot, but just like tearing. And Chim's just like, if you start crying, I'm gonna cry
Yeah.
or something like that.
Typically crying.
Well,
Oh,
yeah, I think it was a relief from on Hen's perspective because like she completely defied the orders of the captain, went and found them, ended up finding them, and was able to save these people that supposedly weren't even involved, you know. And so she's relieved because she's proved her point that she's a damn good paramedic firefighter,
right, exactly.
and she's
Yeah.
got the right instincts, and she knew she was right.
Yeah. And after all this whole ordeal, they go back to the house, and like after all this, Sal and Tommy like go up to him basically and say how like she did like good work
I was
and
like,
stuff.
okay, respect.
Yeah,
Like pop.
yeah. I This reminds me of just like thinking of Sal and Tommy. It reminds me of like that scene. I forget what season it was in, maybe two, where like Buck mentions like worried about like if they'll like if there were to like one of them were to leave, would they still keep in contact? And like he's like, so do you
Oh, it
two?
was during Red. Yeah.
Yeah, like so you do you still talk to them? And they're just like, haven't in a while. That's just like that's what it reminds me of every time I think of them.
Yeah.
That wasn't that season 3 when Buck met Red,
I
and
think so.
because Buck was talking about how the guy lost touch with all of his
Oh
things, and
yeah,
every
no, it
and they were
was.
trying to reassure Buck that they would always be in touch or whatever, and he's like, we. I think Eddie said it because he was talking about, well, don't you keep in touch with the guys that used to work here? And that's when Chim's like, well, not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, literally. But anyways, then this is when Chim tells Han that the cat wants to see her in his office. Just like he's just like
And they're just
she's
like, oh no.
oh no, and she just says like it's nice. It's been nice working with you, and like Han walks in and she meets like a captain and the commander, and I'm just okay, and you're just like oh. And he says they've received many complaints about Captain Gerard, and like you're like, oh, okay, this is where this is going. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of like, and like he kind of says like your coworkers have nice things to say about you, basically. And like this is when Hen was like, I thought I was gonna get fired, but the commander says, why would we do that? You're the future of the 118. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh yes. Yes, she
Like
is.
energetic clap.
Yes. And Han walks out of the office and she tells Chim that he set her off. And he responds with, that's payback for making it so hard to be friends with you.
Right.
And she kind of like thanks him for sticking with her, and
Right.
they get a call, and this is like the new 118. And of course, we have like a very great end monologue. How could we not? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Mahan says, we are born with innocence, then as we grow, we are cursed with the question, why? Why are we here? Is it all just chaos, or do we have a purpose? I was one of the lucky ones to show an answer to that question. The curse was lifted and replaced with the gift of certainty. Why am I here? Because when you are scared, when you are hurt, when you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the smoke is too thick to breathe, or it hurts too much to move, or it looks like you might lose someone you love when it's your turn to have the worst day of your life, I am here to be the first one there to help. I am here to stand between you and the chaos. I am a first responder. This is my purpose, and I'm always just a phone call away. Oh, I love it.
And we all know the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, 911. In
Yeah.
case that wasn't obvious.
In case that wasn't, literally obvious. Yeah, this like whole episode,
so good.
like both, like, it just, I don't know, it's just like so powerful, like Athena Begins, but this just like hits a whole other level. And then of course we gotta finish off with Chimney Begins. I was thinking about this, like, they don't start calling him Chimney, like, yet, so I'm like, when does this happen?
I know.
This is one of the greatest mysteries of the show. What? Why is Chimney called Chimney?
Like, we all could make our
think
assumptions.
that would be revealed here.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Of all the time.
We just need to know, like, it's a secret. It's like, it doesn't need to be a secret.
Seasons in.
And we still don't know.
Right.
Like, do they even know? I don't think they even know.
I feel like there must be fanfics on it. There has to be fanfics on it. I'm curious of what people think. Like, and stuff. And there was also an episode where, like, wasn't there an episode where he had to go down the chimney to, like, rescue a baby or something? Like, that was, like, the only way in? Because I vaguely remember that.
No, I don't remember anything like that.
No, there was.
But there's been, fanfiction mentioning that.
No.
I swear this happened.
Wait. No, season 4 beginning, the mudslide, where there was the woman running the illegal adoption ring.
Well, yeah, he had to go down in the chimney to get into the house. Yeah, he had to go down
into the chimney. Yeah, he didn't get stuck there, but...
No, I didn't mean that. I just meant, like, he had to go down the chimney.
Yeah, that's what I thought you all were talking about.
No, I didn't think he got stuck. I just thought, like, oh, they've literally made mentions of it, but, like, they haven't, like, explained why they call him that or when or what. Like, I just need to know.
I know, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I think, yeah, the thing that happened in season 4 is how you'd expect him to get his name.
Right.
But he'd already had his name for 4 seasons by that.
It had to been. It had to been once Bobby came in.
It's possible. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cause like,
do we remember how he was addressed in Bobby Begins? We literally just did Bobby Begins. Do any of us remember this?
Well, we were talking Bobby more than
we were, but like, does anyone remember?
I don't. I'm pretty sure they called him,
Chim.
No, I don't think they called him Chim in Bobby Begins. I think they called him Howie or like Han or something. I don't think he was called Chimney yet in that episode either.
Okay, afterwards we're just gonna have to do a watch through and figure out what they called him.
Oh, trust me, like,
try to narrow down.
By the time this episode airs, the finale will be the week later. So by then, but around this time, I'm gonna be like, once the finale hits, I'm rewatching from season 2 on. If you're wondering, hey Katie, what about season 1? We do not acknowledge season 1 here.
Not at all.
Not at all. But anyways, so like the opening sequence for Chimney Begins, like he's almost having like a subconscious dream because we know he was stabbed by Doug, which we kind of see. We see, like, he sees himself being stabbed and, like, being on the ground, seeing Doug, seeing glimpses of, like, him and Maddie, like, almost like flashbacks, things we've already seen. And, like, subconsciously through all this, he says, you're gonna be just fine. Everything's, gonna be just fine. You're fine. And I'm just like, okay. Well, I guess. And then we could go back to, like, 2005 and stuff, and Chimney is like pitching invention ideas, and somehow this doesn't surprise me because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like he almost gives me like a person that has like bigger dreams kind of vibe and stuff, and he pitches a sleeveless or sleep blanket. And I'm just thinking, that's ironic.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they've made that.
I'm pretty sure by I don't know when that actually came out, but I feel like it was around this time, honestly. Because I like vaguely remember like that. Um, and then like the month before, apparently he pitched like something to do with a fitness month or something. I don't know. And before that was pampered pet parties.
And at this point, you're just rubbing like the bridge of your nose, going, "Chimney, I have no words."
Right. Right.
Yeah, and like the lady, April was like the lone lady at the bank, and she's just like keeps denying his stuff. And Jim's like, he needs to figure out what he wants to do with his life. Or like she tells him that he has to figure out what he wants to do with his life, but being an entrepreneur is not it. And he's just like, see you next month, and she's not amused whatsoever. And
like, okay, really.
yeah, she's just like, she just wants to get rid of him. Just imagine a day where she never sees him again. She's like, this guy hasn't come in for his monthly pitch. Oh, I wonder what happened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we see Chim sing karaoke in like a bar. He's a bartender.
I love that they make this karaoke reference because we've seen him and Maddie do karaoke.
Yeah, literally in the same season. But I just find it ironic that both Chim and Buck were both bartenders.
Oh gosh, I didn't make that connection.
Oh my gosh, me neither.
Oh my god.
Why have we not had this reference?
How am I the one that made that connection?
Feel proud, honey.
I know, I kind of am. Like it's just like a mood that they both like Buck and Chim give off different vibes, but the fact that they were both bartenders in one part of their life is just very I don't know, it's weird to me. But he basically just works at the bar to help his friend out from time to time, and Chim says something like, shouldn't I have found my calling by now? Like I had that moment like this is what I should be doing. And honestly, that is like so relatable. Like I relate because I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? Like it's like, should I know by now? It's just like, I don't know, it's just funny and relatable. But and then like Kevin, his friend, is just like, I don't think that exists. Most people just want a job they can stomach that plays well enough, you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's relatable.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and Jim's just like, I have been hustling since I was 16. You know how many jobs I've had? Probably over hundreds. Nothing stuck yet. Kevin's like, well, your first job stuck babysitting me when you moved in with my family, and you're still doing it, bossing me around anyway. And Jim's just like, yeah, that's because if there's one person I know with less direction than me, Kevin, it's you. And he's just like, yeah, you really have been a terrible influence. And then this is when like the other bartender that was there like lights some shots on fire, and Jim kind of looks over like, what the heck is he doing? And then like this woman that was like behind, like on the other side of the bar where these shots are being lit up, like catches on fire, and Jim like literally like runs up and kind of like runs into action mode, kind of like how Hen did. And like he saves her and stuff, and like after that people were cheering, and like obviously this like made him feel really good.
Oh yeah, like he was
and
like,
stuff.
oh, I did something right.
I mean, yeah, like that is like literally like it's like, oh okay, like I'm the hero, like wow, this feels great. And like Chim is like at dinner with like Kevin and Elise stuff, and like Kevin kind of tells a story saying how like Chim saved a woman and how he was the only one that kept his cool, and like that makes sense. I mean, I feel like Chim sometimes could be like the panicker almost in certain situations.
When it really comes down to it, he really steps in. Like he's good at his job, and even now when he hasn't even in his job yet,
yeah,
you know,
he
like, really does. He can step up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously, when it's not like your own life circumstance, you're gonna be panicky. But when it's somebody, like, when it's a different part, you're not, in a sense. And then we get like a flashback to like this moment and stuff of Chim saving all these people and stuff. And like through it, we get like, Mr. Lee being well, now you guys can find real jobs because the bar obviously burned down. And Chim
Mm-hmm.
mentions how he applied to the LAFD, and Kevin starts talking about like, I guess like that's about it. And Mr. Lee is kind of like, because he says we would like, like something about like them, like how things would go for them, and he's just like, oh, we. And Kevin's like, yeah, I applied too.
And that's like,
It's,
okay.
he's probably like in his head. Mr. Lee's probably like, oh no, oh
Yeah,
no,
it's like, what's
Not
going
both
on?
of them.
oh no. Yeah, and like again, like in Hen Begins, I love this because we see them train, and then after the training and stuff, we they get their assignments and stuff, and Jim is of course 118, Kevin is at the 133 and stuff. And like Jim, I feel so bad for him when he shows up on his first day. Like just because the way like he was hazed, like him and Hen both got like the worst treatment because they got the worst captain, probably
Right.
all in LA,
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
maybe
Oh, you
even
know
ever.
what? We've solved the Lone Star thing too. They must have been brothers. In the writing group. Anyway,
Very well possible. We
Very
don't
it's
know.
possible.
imagine.
Family reunions, and they're just bitching about their whole like useless cruise and stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, so like when Jim shows up for his first day, Eli thought was like, did you forget to tip the delivery guy? And Jim's just standing there like very funny. And the captain right off the bat was like, obviously we know he's a total ass. Because we know that from Henrienne's. It's just so weird seeing things like this. Um and the bells go off, and like legit, like the captain is just like, "You can stay back to clean," and I'm just like, "What the heck?"
Now that's something we didn't see with Hen. Like she did get to
Yeah.
go on the first call, but Jim is kept behind for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah,
referenced that before, like
Mhm.
having used it to, um, break
Kinda
any record with the gain into his turnout gear and stuff like
Right.
that. And you do your best in the circumstances. Because what else are you gonna do?
Right.
But it's very frustrating, especially
yeah,
when we see Kevin at dinner. Like we see them after a long day, and he's telling stories about all the crazy stuff he's getting into with his station, and Chimney's just sitting there like, ha 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 ha.
Oh, must be nice, Kevin. That's what I would be
Please
like.
stop talking.
Yeah,
Right.
and I feel so bad because like he wants to do the shop so badly, but he's just told to clean. It doesn't get to go on calls, and like we just mentioned, like Kevin is telling these crazy stories, and it's like must be nice, Kevin. And like Chim is just left behind time after time again. Not to mention he eats alone at like his own table.
Yeah, it's
Like
crazy.
that's like an extreme to me.
Oh,
And
it's very
then
extreme.
yeah, like I don't know. It's just like it's not like what. But finally, Carve arrives the 118 for help, and this is like Chim's chance, and like he's the only one there. And like the lady says that she thinks her husband's having a heart attack, and like so Chimney checks it out. This is like his chance, his opportunity. And the guy was really just having like Chim thought he was having a panic attack or whatever, but it was like indigestion. And Chim goes to tell everyone about his day, like, oh, somebody showed up here, but he just gets ignored.
Just like
Which
that.
is yeah.
Ugh, like the
Right.
worst. Chimney does not have good luck with like the only good thing about his life at this time was like the Lees. Like his parents suck. Well, his mom was like a real gem, but we never got to meet her because she
Right.
died. But like his like stepmom and his dad suck. Like which kind of leads into the next scene, which is at home, where Chim video calls his dad, and like we see a young Albert, which is interesting. And Chim's dad is just like, Howard, and Chim's like, yeah, it's your other kid. And his wife or girlfriend or whoever she was like, Howard's calling, why? What does he want? And I'm like, rude.
Rude.
Yeah, definitely don't like her.
No, she like just like the
Don't like any
demeanor.
of them except Albert. But he's too young
True.
to do
I mean,
anything.
and yeah.
I didn't even like Albert at first when he came into the picture of like when we actually saw him like as an adult
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like
that was
I
an
don't.
adult?
He's like 20. I think he's
No.
like
I'm
22.
making a joke because he was acting very adultish.
No, he was. Yeah, he was like acting like a 10-year-old. Some of the actions, they're talking about.
He was nice, but still.
He was nice, but he was buck 1.0. Okay. He was definitely.
Can attest to that. His
Yeah.
couch can attest to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're like talking in Korean, and like Chim's dad is like, I don't know, maybe he wants money. And Chim's just like, Dad, I don't need money. I've got news. I got a new job. I joined the fire department. And Chim's dad is just like makes an excuse of why he has to leave. And I'm like, I hate this man. Like, what the heck?
He still feels like he needs to talk to him at all or something like that. Like, family is family, but he has his family. That's not them. Now, at this point, he has less of them, but he still has the Lees.
Yeah. Like, the Lees are like his chosen family and the much better family. Because Mrs. Lee, kind of watches Chim in the backyard, and then like when Chim goes back inside, she calls Chim's dad a jackass, and I'm just like, yes.
Yes.
Like he legit is. Yeah. And it's just so much in general. I feel bad for Chim because Chim in this moment is trying to make friends with Tommy, and he's like trying to find common interests, and Tommy's just like, I'm not interested, and I'm like, what the heck?
Tommy.
Yeah. Like, I don't get that.
But it opens up to Eli,
who
which we just got introduced to again in this last 911 episode.
Yeah. Which is funny because I forgot he existed until this last
I did too.
episode.
I was like, well, EJ and I know Eli as
Mac.
The
actor. Yeah, we know him as Mac.
As Mac from Night Shift. So when I saw him, I was like, Mac, yes.
Yeah, we totally spaced that he was in like Chim Begins. And I love because like in the most recent episode, spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen it, or one of the most recent episodes, is that Eli makes the comment, somebody must have trained you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, of course, because it was Eli.
I forgot about this because I was like, is that Mac? And I was like, I had to like IMDb it while I was watching the episode, and I was like, oh my god, he was in Chimney Begins. Like, what the? Oh my god!
And we were introduced. So Mac was introduced at the end of season 3 as a former military guy who was now working for search and rescue in somewhere in Texas and got hurt.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of season 4, he's like basically disabled from even what he was supposed to do there. So he like really couldn't do anything. And I think he had some inoperable cancer or something they couldn't treat. And then something happened and some guy he was working with ended up stabbing him and killing him. That was a really rough death.
We can't even, this is such a sidetrack. But guys, if you haven't watched Night Shift, just go do it, okay?
Yes, and it's set in Texas, so you never know. I mean, we could get a crossover with Lone Star. Just saying. Come on, Fox, make it happen. Brendan Fair, I'm sure, would love to come back as Dr. Alistair. And Luke McFarlane can come back as his husband, Rick. Just saying.
I don't care if it's not the same network. Like, just make this, just transfer these characters over to Lone Star.
Yeah, Drew could, transfer to somewhere closer, and he could work out of the ER in Austin. And sorry, we're like totally like, but it was just really cool because
sitting here like,
yeah, you're like, I don't know.
This is when you guys talk about something I have no idea about. I'm just sitting here like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, so Mac's a really cool character, and the actor is Mac Brandt, M-A-C Brandt. And then in the show of Night Shift, he was also a Max. So that's how we know him. But to see him as Eli, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. He was in here. So I'm curious how Eli ended up leaving the 118 and ending up in Boston.
Me too. That was
because that's where Chim ran across him. And I was like, I don't remember Eli having like the Boston accent back in Chim Begins. So I'm like, how did he go from LA to Boston?
It's a very interesting switch. Like all like legit all across the country. Like, how did you end up here? Do tell. Please come back. Do tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Chim basically like Eli tells him that he is with him today and he cleared it with the captain and Chim's like, but I'm not a paramedic. And he's like, you're not much of a firefighter either.
No.
And I'm like just like, oh fair. But he's like
but yeah.
He's like, you can stay here and play butler, or, you know, and Chip's like, no, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready to play.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is like so one of those moments, because I feel like we see him now, knowing him as such a paramedic. So it's just weird to think, like, at one time he's like, I'm not a paramedic, though, and stuff. It's just like, it's definitely a flip. But we see Medic Chim, which I love. And Eli was the first one to accept him, which I also love. And then they get a like call for a structure fire, and Chim is going to, which yes. And this is when like Kevin and Chim are on the roof because also the 133 is there. And like there was a woman on the roof, I believe. And like Kevin goes to push her like out of the way because like I don't know, the fire was getting like out of control. Like it had already been out of control. And he falls to the roof, which is like so like I've seen this happen so many times.
I know,
just, like,
it's
why?
so hard.
Yes.
Because not only the physical injuries of falling through numerous levels of house, you're also the smoke inhalation and everything. It's not a good way to go.
Not to mention fire.
Well, yeah, but that's a given. At least, but yeah, it's a tough way to go.
Yeah, literally. We, I believe, get to the hospital, and Chim says how sorry he is to the ladies, and I love this part just because we would expect them to be mad because Chim's like the whole reason they got into the LAFD. But like they comfort each other, which I love.
Yeah, they truly are like a family. And it's like,
yeah. And like Kevin's like fire service just gives me chills. And like we see Chim ring the bells, and I'm like, oh, my heart.
Right, it's tough.
Yeah, it's like so tough to watch. Like you're just like, oh my god, like so emotional. But Chim goes back to work. Like I assume this isn't like right away, but like maybe a couple weeks after or a week after. And Eli is just like, it's good to see you back. I wasn't sure if you would come back. And Chim's like, I don't have anywhere else to go. And I'm like, oh. And
well, I mean, because he's in a bad spot. Like, you know, the Lees have been his family since his mom passed away, and his dad's basically washed his hands of him and doesn't want anything to do with him. So.
I mean, good riddance to the dad.
Right, but... totally. I mean, and the stepmother, whatever she is. She's a worthless piece of... She's
an evil stepmother, that's for sure.
Evil stepmother.
She fits the part.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But they go to a structure collapse, and after repeatedly hearing people complain of headaches, this is when Chim thinks that it's the gas in the building and Tommy's in this building. Because like when they get there, like Eli and Chim are basically setting up like triage outside, and like the people are like getting brought out, whatever and stuff, and like Chim like does whatever we'd expect him to do and runs in to save Tommy before the building goes up in flames. And
I love this because this is when he proves himself as a firefighter, not just as a medic. But like he's like, nope, we're heading in. I do love that.
Yeah, I love it. Like, because he's a lot of things and stuff. But we see Chim sitting in the hospital, and he's like having like, it's like subconscious kind of vibes to me, and like flashbacks / horrors, because we see him like grab his chest, and then we see blood, and then
it's like alternating between the current situation and the past situation, I think.
Yeah, which that's what I feel like. Hen had flashbacks, but they weren't like obvious flashbacks. The only reason why we knew they were flashbacks because it was before like her firefighter paramedic kind of journey started.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like super obvious. Where Chim, like we know like he's going through something present day, but then we're also getting his flashbacks through it, which I like. And like I love the Eli Chim scenes, like yes. And like
Yes, me
Eli
too.
tells Chim to like, because like Chim was just gonna like stay at the hospital, but he like tells him, or like he was gonna go back to work, and like Eli tells him to hand it off and go home. He kind of
Right.
tells them that he's not God and he can't save everyone.
Right.
And so Chim goes home, and this is when Anne or Mrs. Lee visits him, and Mrs. Lee knows that Chim didn't get Kevin killed, is what she tells him, and she's like, I've never seen you happier. She says how his mother and Kevin are watching over him, and they are proud of him, and I'm like, oh, love this.
Yeah,
And
he needed that.
yeah, and she's still like an important person in his life. Yes, we don't see
Right.
her all the time, but yeah, we have seen her.
Yeah.
I think the last time we saw her was in season 4 and
Yeah.
stuff, which makes sense because we literally hardly see Tim this season. What am I even talking
Right.
about? And stuff. Currently, we hope that will change soon. Anyways,
Well, he is currently finishing up filming a Marvel movie.
yeah, which we figured out like the other day, and we're like, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Why he isn't in the current season. I think it was just like perfect timing with both him.
Right, with
and,
Jennifer's
like,
pregnancy and taking time off for the baby, so
yeah, it makes sense. But anyways,
he's in the new Spider-Man movie.
Well,
and when he wanted to introduce Maddie to his parents, he invited the Lees over. So
yeah, I forgot about that. Like, because those are his like parents.
Yeah, and that was at the end of season 3. So
oh, we love that. But anyways, so Tommy finally opens up to him with his interests, and he's like, Love Actually, Monster Trucks, craft beer, and I'm like, I just love that. Like, it's so like random and somewhat unexpected. And he kind of thanks Chim for saving him. And then this woman shows up with a baby, and she mentions the baby. Like, this had been the woman that they saved at where Kevin died at that fire. And she mentions the baby's name is Adam, but he needs a middle name. And Chim's just like, oh, well, my name is Howard. And she does not look at me as like Howard. I mean, relatable. And then Chim's
it's hardly like, my first choice in any name. I'm sorry.
it's just like
Kevin isn't one either. So.
No, that is definitely never going to be on my list. But yeah, Chim then mentions that, like, actually, I think he looks like a Kevin.
I love that because Kevin did save the woman.
Yeah, and like Tommy and Eli are kind of like in the behind, like on the sidelines, like watching. And Tommy's just like, paramedic, huh? And Eli's like, damn good one. And I'm just like, oh, I love it. Like, this episode was like a lot better than when I originally remembered. Like, because I hadn't watched Hen Chimney Begins in such a long time that I and I don't remember, like, I think I remember when my friend was watching one and being like, oh, Chim Begins isn't that good, and then I watched them and I'm like, okay, these are actually like solid episodes. What was I talking about?
Right.
None of these episodes are bad. I'm just gonna say, like, it's hard to rank them because you know you love all of them. I'm looking at our rankings and I'm laughing because so far you.
I had to write mine on paper before I made it official. But I have 2 variations.
Oh no, 2. I'm like, I've been bouncing back and forth between the bottom 2 just because they're all, like Grace said, they're all really good.
Yeah, the bottom of the middle 2, I wasn't sure where I put them, and both of them switched for me.
Yeah, me too.
but the top 2 still intact. Before we go into rankings real quick though, I just finished my ranking, and so I wanted to mention that. But I've seen people being like, hey, can we get Tommy back? And I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing him again. He grew on me. Yeah.
So, do you guys remember in the episode when Chim was recovering and he helped the 118 get to that neighborhood that exploded?
217. And he called Tommy because he was at the 217 and they had the plane.
Right, okay, so it was Tommy that he called. So Tommy's working with the 217, which is the air sport.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't remember who he called, but I remember him saying, "Hey, are you still at the?" And then I was like, "Oh, was that him or not?"
At first, I was confused because I'd gotten Tommy and Sal mixed up, and Sal was the guy that Bobby had fired for like disobeying direct orders, like that kind of thing. And Tommy had worked alongside the team longer, and then had moved on to another station. I got the two of them mixed up, but after watching Bobby Begins, it made so much more sense.
Yeah.
But I do remember it was Tommy.
Okay.
And so we do love that apparently he's
Still a firefighter.
And that they're in contact enough for him to just pick up and go, "Hey, you still there?"
Right.
Like, obviously they're not in that much contact because he had to check that he's still there, but I just love that he was referenced. So, yeah. Anyway, I would be okay with bringing Tommy back in some capacity, but that's completely random.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, your ranking's interesting, Katie.
Okay.
I actually
DJ and I are identical, I believe.
I have so many, like, it's different on paper too. I have so many thoughts, but yeah, let's just
Okay.
Let's just get to it.
Yeah. Shall we go last first? Or...
Yeah, bottom to top. So like 6, yeah. So bottom for me is Athena, and this is why. Like, so I have like 3 different rankings, and all of them Athena was at the bottom because I feel like, I don't know, I liked Athena, and I still like, just because it's on the bottom doesn't mean I think it's a bad episode. I just think that like there were a lot of things in it that like I felt like, I don't know, it just didn't give like the impact the other ones did. Even though when we recorded that I was like, oh my god, this is so impactful, which it was. But like there was also a lot of it where I was just like, okay,
yeah.
So yeah.
For me, my 6th one would be Hen Begins. Once again, not because we don't like them, because I do love Hen and I love her Begins episode. But for me, like, if we were doing a ranking of empowering speeches, hers would be near the top because there are some really great monologues and speeches in there. But I think it just lacked a few of what the other episodes have, and I'm not even really sure what of. But it was great. There were just others that had more. And so that's why it's at the bottom for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, again, like we've all said, these are all great episodes. I love all the characters. So it was hard to pick. Obviously, there's a few higher ones. I think for Hen Begins, it was a lot of, I guess I struggle a little bit with the fact that there's constantly so much like issues with women in the workplace and stuff. It just didn't, like, that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. Just the fact that, like, the way they were treating her in some ways. But I'm so glad for Hen standing up for herself and not letting them get to her, because she easily could have, and she could have walked away, and she didn't. So, I mean, it's a great episode, but I definitely think there were elements of the other ones that were ranked a little higher for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, number 5 for me would be Hen. I don't know. Like, actually, my ranking was going to be like just like your guys's before I rewatched these, but then I rewatched them and I was like, okay, I think my opinion's changed, and stuff. But I don't know, like, I really like Hen Begins, and stuff. I think it's like super powerful, and I almost got like more of a connection with Hen Begins than I do with Athena Begins. I don't know. It's not like the top, but I still think it's very good.
For me, number 5 was Chim Begins. And this is actually a switch around from my original ranking. Originally, it was Hen Begins, then Chim Begins. Chim was last.
Mm-hmm.
But in reviewing the episodes, I think, despite the engaging monologue and speech of Hen Begins, Chim Begins was maybe a little bit more emotional, maybe a tiny bit more interpersonal. And I think we saw a progression a little bit. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. With Hen Begins, we saw like the start to a progression of how she got there.
Right.
With Chim, we saw the progression up until when Hen would come in which was obviously a bit later. But I feel like we mainly just got a little bit more of a rounded story with him.
I think for me, because Chim Begins, Grace and I have exactly the same one, so it's going to be funny how we describe them. But so Chim Begins, I ranked it a little higher because, yeah, I do like Eli. I appreciate that, somebody took a chance on, Chim, which I think also helped Chim be the one to want to extend an olive branch to Hen because he had somebody do that for him.
Like, he knew what it was like to be the outsider.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more powerful, too, because, we get to see how Kevin died and how much the Lees, even though his son, like their son died, they still see Chimney as a son to them. And what we know is that the Lees were there when his mom had passed away. So they kind of took him under his wing, and he was friends with Kevin, and that's kind of how they kind of bonded. I just, it's very powerful again, and I do like the Chim Begins, and I don't know, like, I think, I also like how they wrapped it up, obviously, because this is, again, centered around the time when, Chim's, it's almost like a flashback for Chim. Like, he's having the flashbacks of that while he's in his coma, unconscious state from getting stabbed from Doug and all that stuff.
The whole thing about life flashing before your eyes.
Yeah. Why is it that, like, whenever I think about him being in coma, the first image that comes to my mind is, like, Buck getting his fingerprint to unlock his phone.
Oh
yes.
my gosh!
And then getting stuck in hospital jail, as Eddie calls it.
Good stuff.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just funny to think about and stuff. So number 4 for me is Chimney. I just really like this episode. I actually, when I rewatched them, I watched Chimney then Hen, and because I originally thought these aired like differently, but I wanted to watch Chimney first, so I did that. And I was just like, okay, like this is really good. Like, I don't know, I just think it's very impactful, as like most, if not all, of these episodes have been. And it just, I don't know, I really feel for him. I really do. And like, there's just like some things where I'm just like, okay, I relate to that. So, which I feel like Chim and Hen both gave me. Like, I found relatable moments, which is probably why I wanted to rank them higher and why I did. Where like, I didn't necessarily relate to everything in Athena Begins, which is, I guess, which is like, that makes sense because like we would rank these on like, at least how I look at it is, if I relate to it, it's going to be easier. I don't know. But yeah, I just really liked it.
So number 4 for me was Athena Begins. I think half of the reason it ranks so high was just, I just love Athena. And I love seeing how she got to where she is. I do feel like her and Chim Begins could have been interchangeable for me. But, so, Athena Begins got put in 4th. And it's just kind of, it's the middle episode. Like, I don't love it as much as I love the next 3, but, I think it was definitely a hard on the feels episode for me. And I think it was just so good just because it explained so much about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for, Athena Begins was one that, I too have Athena Begins as number 4. And I used to not like the episode, and I never really could put my finger on why I didn't like it. But after we rewatched it, I was like, wow, this actually is a pretty powerful episode, because we get the past of learning like how she came to become a police officer, how she was dating another officer, how he was killed and his killer was never found. So she's forced, Ben kind of defied the odds and stuck with it and became a damn good police officer and sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And then to finally, after 30 some odd years, to go through a marriage that ends, with her and Michael, and then marrying Bobby. She had 2 kids with Michael. And then now to see a chapter in her life that she'd pretty much closed just suddenly opens again. And then this one, this episode to me told a story more so than Hen and Chim Begins, because that was more just like highlights of their past. Whereas I feel like this was like Athena finally getting the closure she needed. So
it was kind of finishing the past in a way.
Yeah.
Also, from here on out, our lists are exactly the same.
Yeah, which I knew.
Big surprise.
1 and 2 I knew would be the same.
Oh yeah.
But so number 3, Bobby Begins. I don't know, like I've always liked Bobby Begins, and like I don't know, I just have always liked like that episode and like stuff, like just seeing like where he came from, because obviously we kind of knew he came from like Minnesota, and like finding out about that, and like seeing like I always found like his like addiction, like being an alcoholic was interesting and stuff, like just finding out about that past, because like I like it just because like shows that like everyone has their story, everyone has like something in their past, and like everyone's going through something, so I really liked it for that standpoint, and just like a solid episode.
So again, it's Bobby Begins is third, and actually this used to be my fourth one. Athena used to be my third, Bobby used to be my fourth, and but upon rewatching it, I forgot how much I actually really liked the episode. And this is another episode where it's like, that explains so much about Bobby. This is going to be my mantra for most of the Begins episode.
Yeah.
But it explains a lot about him, and it explains how he moved from like the, deep hole where he'd been upon moving there to like become this leader that his crew loves so much and that he has such a deep bond with. And yeah, I just think it's actually an episode that endears Bobby a lot to me. And so yeah, that's pretty much why it's my third.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely feel connections to Bobby, just like location from him being from Minnesota, and I have family from there and living there. But also just I feel like we got a little glimpse of Bobby in season 1, and I think in a kind of a way season 1 was a Bobby Begins too, because he was pretty established by then, but he was still kind of finding his own footing after everything that had happened. And obviously we were getting a little bit of him like going to the confession and talking to the father at the church throughout season 1. But in season 2, we finally faced up to what happened, and it was a lot more traumatic than we really initially thought, and I think he worked through it well, and I saw a lot of growth in Bobby, and I don't know, it made a clear picture as to why Bobby is the way he is now, and I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, number 2 is Buck Begins, because just love like this, like how like Eddie's like, this explains so much about you. That's like this episode.
That's the quote for the episode.
That makes that quote really fits for Buck, but also everyone, but specifically, especially Buck, because like we have been wondering for 4 seasons until we got this episode, what is Buck's past? What are his parents like? What made him him? Who is this? Who is this? And like this explains so much, the fact that he like just like the fact that he was like, moving around the country, that makes so much sense. And just like the jobs he chose kind of made sense, even though they were so weird, and like some of them I'm like, how did he find this job? And stuff, and just like I love seeing his life story. And like I remember when I first watched this, I liked it, but I wasn't sure if it was like a favorite. But then I was like, oh no, after the more and more I rewatched it, I was like, okay, I love this.
So for me, again, Buck Begins. Again, the line they even say in the episode, well, that explains a lot about Buck. It's so true. It explains everything about him. Honestly. I actually feel like this was... I've had a complicated relationship with Buck in the past.
Same. I think we all have.
We have. He'd been fairly low on my list of favorites. Partially, I had an issue with his fans, but also Like, I didn't understand why, you know, what was so endearing about the whole playboy, a little bit asshole-ish image that he was projecting. Like, I didn't understand it. And season 4 particularly endeared him more to me, and then rewatching season 2 all the time, I was like, okay, no, I actually do like him more. And so he'd moved higher up in my list, a lot higher up. But then watching the Begins episode, I'm like, oh, there's like a reason for everything. And I think that did help endear him more to me, like just watching his struggle and, you know, watching his bad coping mechanisms and his good coping mechanisms. And yeah, I found it a very vital episode, I think. Even perhaps the most necessary Begins episode out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So yes, mine is also Buck Begins. And I think
shocker.
Yeah, I know, right? You know, it's funny too, because I think when we first started talking about like what order we were going to record the Begins episodes in, I think we all were like, okay, we're going to do Eddie Begins first because he's, you know, it's our top. Yes. And then, you know, just we kind of followed along.
We talk about it all the time, so yeah.
I know, right? I think so. Like with Athena Begins, I like that it told a story of the past and the present coming together, because we learn obviously about, you know, Buck struggling with finding out that he had a brother that he had no idea about, that he'd never been told about, and it had been this deep, dark secret of the Buckley family. And it explains so much about why his parents treated him the way they did, and why Buck always felt off, and there was a reason for that, and why he was never treated kind of the same. Like, you know, like you said, it's definitely explains a lot about Buck, but also it also shows like why Buck oftentimes constantly puts himself in danger for somebody else. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's subconsciously, like his body knows that he was meant to help his brother, even though it didn't work. You know, I don't know. Yeah, it's a good episode. You know, of course, Buck, there's always the drama of Buck putting himself in the line of fire again and trying to rescue somebody, disobeying orders.
But I think I'm going to pop in here because I think I just love the symbolism of, you know, he was trying to save Sal from the fire. Yeah. And then the entire, like, the 118 came in to back him up. And I think that's kind of a good overall view of the episode in general. Because, you know, he found his place with the 118, and he stopped kind of floundering, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. So,
and now number one, my favorite.
Eddie Begins. Edmundo Begins. Imagine they actually called it that.
Edmundo Begins. Everyone feels
yeah. We were like, who?
Who's that?
No, Edmundo Begins needs to be when we hear, like, Eddie from, like, birth to present day. Not becoming a dad.
For it. Like, seriously.
Eddie Begins again. When?
Yeah, I know.
I'm waiting.
We're looking. Anyhow.
We'll put that on the to want list.
Katie,
yeah.
you go.
So, Eddie Begins has, like, always been a favorite. It's never been a doubt for me. I just have always really liked it. It's just like, it tells, like, the perfect story, and I really do love, like, the well scenes, seeing him, like, down in the well and being like, is anybody there? Like, that scene is just, like, so powerful. And, like, Eddie is just, like, the best. Like, the day this man is killed off the show is the day that I will literally walk away.
Oh, do not speak it into being.
Okay, yeah. I am not manifesting nothing. But I just really like it, and like that's that. Like, it's a love.
You know, I know this will come as a shock to like everybody, but Eddie's my favorite.
Shocker! I would have never guessed that.
It's not like I talk about him in every episode I possibly can.
I mean, same. I love Eddie. Like, he is my favorite. Like, 100%.
Precisely. No, Eddie Begins, hands down, one of the best episodes of season 3 to begin with, of the show, period. And this is sort of a quieter, well, that explains a lot about him. It's sort of that clears up a lot of the questions that came, like, surrounding Shannon coming back and, Eddie's feelings after her death and stuff like that. It's just, that explains a lot about the situation. Almost more than it explains Eddie. But, I just love this episode so much because, I love seeing, we basically open up the flashbacks with him at the birth of Christopher. And like from then on, you see him starting to be the dad that we all know and love.
Right.
And you see him at war, which I was really, even despite all the sadness behind his story there, like, I still love seeing him, in that element. And I don't know, I just love it because it's Eddie, but also it's, you just continue to see how much he fights for his family and continues to fight for Christopher, which is how they ended up in LA. And yeah, that is definitely always going to be my favorite Begins.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No question about it.
Yeah, just like everything you guys said, it's an awesome, it's a well written episode. It's a well wrapped up episode. It definitely does explain a lot about Eddie. I do love Eddie. I love his character. Yeah, it's made some questionable, things like fighting and stuff, but that comes from him not knowing how to really deal with his feelings. And so this was, we at the episode, we saw an element of Eddie that we didn't really know much about, in the sense of, like, when we were introduced to Eddie, we see him as this awesome dad. We didn't know much about their past. We knew about Shannon and her leaving and things like that. We didn't know that he struggled with being a dad at first, and how he had to kind of learn that all over again, coming back every time from the military and all his deployments. And to see how much he's grown as a dad, and how much Christopher adores him. And like him, when you see Christopher sitting on the steps at Abuela or at Eddie's parents' place, talking, when they're trying to talk to Eddie about, leaving Christopher with them.
Oh, another thing that the episode made me do, hate his parents more. I think I'm done.
Oh yeah, that too. But just like when Eddie was talking to Chris about asking him if he wanted to go to LA with him, and he's like, "Do you miss me when I'm gone?" And Chris says, "I miss you all the time." Because we know that, for a while, Eddie, when he came back, had to take like 2 or 3 jobs just to like make ends meet, to keep up with bills and everything. Because obviously Shannon was gone and lost income. Plus, we also see that fatherhood that he became, also being a father to, in a way, this kid, putting himself out there, being a calming presence for that kid, being a parent himself, and thinking, like, what if this was my kid? I would do everything for, Christopher. So he's going to put that love into, like, his job and taking care of, like, getting this kid to safety. And plus, we also learned a little bit, too, about, like, the medal that he wears, the St. Christopher medal. And how I think in some ways, that's why Christopher is named Christopher, too, not just because of the medal. And so I loved at the end how he says that, when Anna asks, like, is that your good luck charm? And he goes, no, he is. And he points to Chris. So I thought it was really good. And I admit, there was the whole, like, Buck trying to dig a dick for Eddie and, just freaking out when there was the thought of Eddie being dead. So I admit there's some Buddy that, like, kind of pushed that up to the top a little bit.
There's always Buddy. Like, there is always, we can make anything into Buddy, which is not hard because they're literally giving us Easter eggs like every episode.
Just and their husbands and we'll all be happy. Anyway.
Just seal the deal. And we'll be happy.
Wow, we got through it, guys. All the Begins episodes for 911 thus far, because we never know. There might be another one.
Robbie Begins. I see it coming. I want it.
I do.
Robbie Begins and Eddie Begins again. That's it. That's all I need.
Yeah, same. Like, they need to do. Yeah. Yes.
I feel like it's more likely they'll do a Robbie Begins. So.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of already opened that up, which I guess whenever we decide to talk about, like, the newer episodes, we'll talk about that then.
And as honorary, because it was an official Begins episode, but we gotta just give credit to it. The Josh Begins, because moment of respect for Josh Begins. Anyway,
Yeah. So we're recording this just a few days after the podcast turned 1 year old. We are super excited and grateful for the journey that we've been on together, and we've become closer friends because of it. And we are grateful for all of our listeners and friends and fans who've been keeping up with us. And last episode we had TJ join us from Instagram. It's another fan site, Tarlos with a period before the S.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. I'm super grateful, and I'm glad we get to celebrate this together. And this is a big milestone for us, because we were like, is anybody going to actually listen to this podcast? And then we have tons of listeners now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just fun interacting with other people. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy it's only been a year because it feels like a lot longer than it also feels like we've been friends for 5 years by now.
Exactly, yeah.
Because we literally talk all the time, we text every day, we talk at least once or twice a week.
Right.
It just feels like forever.
And it's been so fun. We've been watching the episodes together because Grace and I don't get to watch it live. Katie's the only one that usually can watch it live. So the next day we usually watch it together on Zoom and house party it. So it's cool. Yeah, I'm excited to do that for Lone Star too.
Oh my god, you know what we should do? This doesn't. Never mind. I'm gonna say this off the podcast because this is gonna be way too long. So let's just end this, and I'll say this later.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and almost anywhere where podcasts can be found. On iTunes, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow us on our podcast socials, which are @NowOnLS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have a Discord server. Please join us on there. It is in our Instagram bio and also in the description of this podcast. And you guys can follow me, Katie, @ForLoveTarlos on Instagram and @ForLoveTarlos on Twitter.
You can follow me, Grace, @RonanRatha911 on Instagram and @CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, @EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.